So how can we get more buy-in to tell a new story or a new vision? How can we solicit or get a broader buy-in for a new vision, for a new story?
Get people talking. We're not talking enough. We're not talking enough about the real things that we are feeling or the real things that are actually happening.
I think people have to have internal conversations and reflect and think about if it continues like this for the next 10 years or 20 years, what does it mean for the next generation? Start having those conversations with one another.
There is an inclination for us as humans to be selfish and to grab the things that we want and the things that protect us, instead of seeing that the things that protect us are in fact that rich heritage of being together with one another without competition, without grasping for riches and wealth and benefits, however we define those things for ourselves.
If we could find a common vision, I know we have the National Development Plan, which most of us haven't been able to read through or understand fully. I think we lack a sense of national identity. Sports does try every once in a while, but it is not enough to sustain the momentum. And it's unfortunate sometimes because I think maybe it would take a national or natural disaster to help us unite, but I don't want us to be pushed to that level so that we can set aside what divides us and focus on the things that of national common interest and work together.
All the solutions we have, whatever they are, whether it's alternative systems of power generation, we have. Whether it's alternative decentralized grassroots education systems, we have. We have regenerative agricultural systems. They are all here functioning. The missing element is this cohesive pattern that brings it all together into a collective synergy. And so for me, that's where we would start.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done with the people to empower them and to make sure that whatever activities or practices that are being conducted, or even research for that matter that is being conducted with them, it does speak to their issues or problems that they are faced with.
When I sit with like a group of women like here, explain to them what the integrated resource plan is, explain to them what the integrated energy plan is, explain to them what does the National Energy Act of the country says. You actually connecting the dots. Then they understand how policy speaks to them as ordinary people. And the questions they ask always is, but who wrote this policy? Because they didn't ask us, they decided for us. And what they decided for us is not something that we want. This is totally different. In that way, we are able to bring much more ordinary women, women from the grassroots, to be able to discuss energy matters, and also, one or the other, take part in influencing and shaping energy policy and climate change policy in the country, because they are the ones who bear the burden of energy in access. They are the ones who are the faces of climate change.
It's just starting a conversation that not necessarily that would happen in, let's say, in a girl's home. Some girls don't actually get to talk about certain things because it's shied away. It's like, you're too young for this, or you can't be talking like that, we can't have this conversation. But why are we not having that conversation? So I think it's creating a space, a platform that says, you are in this platform, you are safe, so you can be real as much as you want, you can be heard.
I work in so many different areas, from the, if you want to call it, the grassroots/community development arena, all the way through into the commercial arena as well. I work in television, I work in radio, of course it's music, and in those streams there's normally people that don't see self-improvement or dealing with earth issues as a priority. You know, on the one end we are busy struggling, trying to find out, you know, how are we going to dodge bullets when the next gang fight starts, or how I'm going to put the bread on my table, right through to the point where you get these swag kids thinking about where I'm going to find the next $6,000 for the new sneakers that's coming out. That's the range and the dynamic in which I work. So I think if there's a plan, there's a strategy, we can definitely use that as an opportunity to reach those sectors of society.
We're fed that a certain narrow narrative, and environmental people are labeled, for example, and generally the narrative need to change, that these issues of sustainability are not just marginal issues, they are central to economic development and the progress of the human race as a whole.
South Africans are, for some odd reason, very negative. You see kind of negativity also in an environmental movement. It's very focused on the negative things. The world is busy falling apart. But to change that into a positive thing, it has wonderful ways of lifting people. They have to move from a destructive phase of mind to a creative phase of mind. And I think that switch for me is what I would like to grow, with new ideas, with positivity, and mobilizing people behind a new vision.
We need to build a critical mass. So there's a lot of progressive actors, potential leaders who are doing some of this thinking or demonstrating some of this work. But there's not enough of those. There's no platforms or enough of those voices coming together to challenge the status quo.
I'm interested in how we shift towards more humane, and I mean that not just about humans, but more humane urban life. Because I think if we can live our urban life in a more humane way, that has positive spin-offs in all sorts of ways. Less kind of philosophically though, I actually think I'm reaching a stage of life where I'm starting to think that one of the key levers for change is actually the law, and is looking at our legal frameworks and our regulatory frameworks and saying, okay, in South Africa, how do we make them really answer to those core values at the heart of our constitution? How do we make cities which really talk to the South African constitution, which really talk about respect and dignity of the person?
I think each and every one of us can actually commit themselves to walk their talk. If you say, I would want to see people being off-grid, start with yourself, start with your home. Walking the talk is the best way of mobilizing people. And because when you walk your talk, you'll be able to proudly explain to people the reason I'm doing this, it's this.
And the way we do that is not through a great centralizing process. It's actually the opposite. It's about working locally and developing networks and relationships locally and building those outward.
Now, there's lots of things like, environmental crisis, energy crisis, all of those things. But I think those things have a root in us not feeling able, to take control and command of our lives. We just, you will solve all those problems if you can govern yourself and be happy with yourself and make yourself meaningful.
So I think you're seeing a lot of interesting new technologies that allow individuals, households, and even small groups in very remote and far off places to self-organize, to self-create life opportunities. And that's the positive side of enabling technology.
We also need to do radical experimentation, and that also speaks to the work that we do, because we believe that until you're able to demonstrate some of these principles, concepts on the ground, and see that they actually work, you cannot be able to make the case for them.
Ultimately, I like to call myself an actionist and not an activist. We've got to go out there and actually just do it. Create the systems.
There's nothing more inspiring than the living example of what it is you're trying to teach. So for me, if I'm teaching people permaculture, then I need to have permaculture systems effectively running. People step into them, they see. They then step out of that as change agents themselves. So you're suddenly multiplying very quickly. 2-week permaculture design course, 25 people, 2 weeks later they're 25 change agents, each one functioning along their own trajectory. Hopefully they'll get to a point where they do the same.
If you're actually creating these systems and you're putting them in place, then you have a very solid anchor point from which to work. Then you don't even have to argue about it. You can say, well, there's no argument. Here's my system. I'm eating from it. There's my energy system. I'm lighting from it. There's my hot water system. I'm watering. I'm showering in it. What's to argue about? It can be done. It can be done without huge energy input. Are you on board or not? Yeah.
We can show examples of garden systems that didn't cost a lot of money to set up, that don't require a lot of work to maintain, but have a tangible benefit in your life. I think sharing that, having a platform to be able to show the rest of society that yes, it is happening, and it's happening in various forms, and it's happening from people's authentic places. I think it becomes easy for others to also kind of see that change is possible.
So the vision is beautiful. The world is going to be beautiful. We just have to get to more of a tipping point and help more and more people find themselves, realize their dreams, their visions. God's created just immense, infinite fantasticness inside everybody and in everything. You just look at any flower, look at a cloud, look at the rainbow out the window, look at anything. It's perfection.
Yeah, I attended Permafest a couple of years ago, and I came home and I said to Karen, I said, geez, you know what, for the first time in 10 years, I actually feel we're gonna get somewhere. We're gonna be okay. Because there's these beautiful, beautiful young minds who don't have to break through all the programming and conditioning that we went through. And these guys are just totally solution focused all the time. They've seen the problems, sure, but they don't dwell on it. And they're setting up food systems, and they're setting up economical systems, and they're setting up energy systems and sustainable housing. They're just doing it. They're getting on with it. And that to me was very inspirational and reassuring. Yeah.
Do you have a personal message that you would like to share with the world?
Wow. I do. My message to the world would be, you are worth something. Start working on that worth that is you, and dream big and start working on that dream.